Hey everyone, it's Infinity Gamer here, and in this video I'm going to give you 5 reasons as to why you should play the evil combined army. Reason number 1 is that it's good to be bad. There's nothing wrong with playing the enemy that everyone can focus on. It's good, probably, for your local meta if instead of just the individual dislikes that one faction has for another, everyone can rally around the single enemy that most of the human sphere can agree on, and that is the threat of the evolved intelligence and the combined army. You as a player, if you're playing the combined army, you can be the glue that holds your group together by giving them a common threat to focus on, and one that they can all agree is the worst. That is the role of the combined army, and you could be doing that if you play that for your local gaming group. On a more serious note, the second reason why you should play the combined army is because they've got some of the most interesting units in the human sphere and in the whole of the Infinity world. They've got units that can do things that just aren't available in any other faction, have abilities, skills, weapon profiles that you won't find anywhere else. A prime example of that is Sepsiter. That's the weapon that can put someone in a sepsiterized state. That's pretty interesting. I'm going to go through why in a minute. Mnemonica, that's a very easy one. Protheon, that's an interesting one as well. And even when you're not playing the Shazvasti Sectorial, you have the Shazvasti's keyword, which could be very useful in some missions. So let's break those down and why they're so interesting, and the fact that they're so unique to combined army. The first one is Sepsiter. It's a weapon that when the attack is successful, if it goes through all of the saves, will put the target in the sepsiterized state. What that means is very similar to Total Control as the hacking program. If you've ever had one of your tags go into that state, it fundamentally turns that unit, and only units with a cube can be targeted or can be sepsiterized, but that unit basically becomes one of your opponent's units from that point onwards. So all of their friendships with their existing comrades are forgotten, they've joined the opposing side, and the enemy can now use that unit as if it were one of their own. So they can spend orders to turn that around and start attacking you. It's quite a scary thing, and it's only seen in combined army. Only a couple of units have it, so you won't necessarily see it very often, but it could be a scary thing if you've charged up with one of your cube key units, only to have it turned around and now become part of the combined army's force. That's quite a scary prospect. Mnemonica is another one that's a little bit interesting, and again, one that you only really find in combined army. What Mnemonica does is when the unit that has Mnemonica goes into an unconscious state, it can choose to pass its willpower attribute to another unit within the force, and if it's the lieutenant, can also pass the lieutenant skill across to that unit as well, which makes it very difficult to put them into loss of lieutenant, a combined army person into loss of lieutenant. If the lieutenant has Mnemonica, if you don't take it straight to dead, if it goes to unconscious, they could pass that lieutenant special skill and the whip value of that lieutenant over onto another unit. So quite an interesting little mechanic, one that you don't see anywhere other than the combined army, which is pretty cool. Protheon is a very interesting one. Again, you see this in a couple of units within the combined army. What it does is when a unit that has Protheon goes into a combined, saying combined army too much, a close combat attack with a unit, for every wound attribute it knocks off through close combat, it gains a wound. So that you, as the combined army player using a unit with Protheon, get healthier, get stronger as you kill stuff. You can go 2 wounds above that unit's normal wound profile by munching on your opponents and absorbing their wounds as you kill them. I mean, like, how that is just really cool. It's one of those things that like draws me towards combined army because I want to do that. And one of my friends plays combined army quite a lot, and it's so fun when you just see it wander around the table, beating things in close combat, because generally the things that have Protheon are very good at close combat anyway, but at the same time munching on their wounds, getting stronger, getting bigger, and getting more powerful and more of a threat as it goes. So very cool thing there. Now, the last one on that list that I mentioned beforehand was Shazvasti. Now, you don't have to be playing Shazvasti for things to have the Shazvasti keyword, but you'll notice in certain missions, and especially ones where you've got to hold zones, you'll notice that there's an exemption for Shazvasti in there, in that unconscious Shazvasti troopers still contribute their points towards the scoring mechanism of that mission. What that means if you're playing against a combined army opponent that has units with the Shazvasti keyword is if they're not removed from the table, so if they're just unconscious, then they're still scoring points for the enemy. Whereas for you, as a non-combined army, non-Shazvasti player, if something's unconscious, it doesn't count towards the points attributes, which means you've got to take all of these combined army units to dead in order to stop them from scoring, which means you've generally got to put twice as much effort in to remove them. Because if you leave any unconscious, not only can they be resurrected, but even as an unconscious state, they will still score points. So that's another one of the cool things that you don't see outside a combined army that means that it's definitely one of the reasons in here as to why you should play them. The next reason why you should play Combined Army is because they've got some very interesting units. So those abilities aside, they've got some very cool units that have some normal stuff that we're used to seeing elsewhere. But put into Combined Army, they've got like a little bit more to play with, and it's quite interesting. So the Avatar is a prime example. Now it does have some cool abilities, like it's got Sepsitor, so it can Sepsitorize its opponents. It isn't able to be isolated itself, so it's very cool. If you watch my top 5 tags in Infinity video, which I'll remember to put a link up there, or there, don't know, one of them, you'll see that the Avatar is very highly ranked in that. I won't give away any spoilers. But if you're playing Combined Army, you'll have access to the Avatar, and it is an exceptionally good tag, even when compared against all other tags in the game. Not only that, the humble Dr. Worm, or the mechanized Batroid, like whatever its proper name is one of the best doctors and engineers in the game. The only model, or the only unit profile that I can think of that comes relatively close is Pavati, but she costs about 10-12 points more than Dr. Worm does. So Dr. Worm is both a doctor and an engineer. You can have slave bots, and it's relatively cheap for what it does. So a very easy inclusion into most lists when playing combined, and something that you might need to take out if you don't just want all of these combined army units that you've put to unconscious coming back up. Another one that's quite interesting is something simple as the Icadron. It's a fairly low cost, I think it's 9 points off the top of my head, light flamethrower, baggage bot with repeater, that has a decent move. I think it's a 6/6 move on it. Now that doesn't sound very impressive, but when you've got a couple of those on the table, they're good ARO pieces because they've got flamethrowers. They can be pushed up, and they're very expendable 9-point units that can go up, and they're repeaters. So if you do have 1 or 2 hackers in there, you're extending your hacking network, but you've also got the close combat deterrent in the flamethrower, and if they're baggage, they can score even more points in certain missions. So a couple of reasons as to why something as simple as the Icadron is very good. And then there's the Specular Killer, which is one of my most hated units in the whole game, bar few, because it can deploy in your, or just outside your deployment zone. I think it can maybe go in your deployment zone. I don't know that for a fact, but it can get very close to your deployment zone because it always is. And it's in an impersonation state, which means that you've got to discover it 2 times before you reveal what it is. And in that time, it can turn around and just kill things. And it's generally got Mind Layer, which makes the shell game things very difficult. Yes, I have faced 1 or 2 Specular Killers before in one list, and it's been brutal. But if you play Combined Army, you'll get access to these horrible units that strike fear into the heart of everyone. Talking of which, the Noctifer is another thing that's well worth mentioning in here. I'm pretty sure it's in Vanilla Combined. I've seen it in Shazvasti, so I think I assumed that it's also in Vanilla Combined because that's how things generally work. But that is a unit that doesn't even have to be in your list for it to strike fear in the hearts of your opponent. Anyone who's faced Combined will likely fear a Noctifer because they come out of hidden deployment with their missile launcher and they take out a fire team or a link team as it's moving through the table. And just the fact that it could be in your list, you'll find strikes fear into the heart of many an opponent. Linking onto that, reason number 4 why you should play Combined Army is that list building is endless pretty much. They've got so many different units, they've got such a wide breadth, because they're pretty much almost everything that's in the Human Sphere factions is almost in Combined Army, but then some differently, because if you think about it, they're kind of the yin and yang against each other. So you've got lots in Combined Army. That means that you're pretty much always going to have things to play around with. There's going to be stealth, there's hacking, there's massive heavy infantry strong stuff if you just want to shoot your way up the field. Yeah, there's shell game nonsense, there's a whole bunch, you've got loads of CC stuff that can just charge up the table, and some disposable things, like tigers. Oh crikey, they're horrible. You've pretty much got everything you could ever want to play with within Combined Army, so you can do some very different lists every single time and not get bored, which is, I think, a fantastic reason to play Combined Army, is the variety that comes with it. And also my final point, so the 5th reason why I think you should play Combined Army, is the sectorials are also very varied. You've got Shazvasti, which is more sneaky shell game, attack from hiding. It can be a bit glass cannon if you don't play it well, but it's also very easy to play it well once you've mastered it. That for me is one of the bigger mind game sectorials to play. You've got to think, you've got to work things, you've got to pick your moments and pick the right opportunity for it. So that is it. When I'm ranking Infinity sectorials, for me, Shazvasti goes at one of the more thinky ends of the spectrum. And then at the other end, you've got Morats, which are just charge down the table, hit them hard. You know, they're the Morat aggression force. They're named that for a reason. They are quite tanky. Most of them are 2 wounds. They've got decent armor saves. You've got some great weapons. You've also got some MSV, so you can counter some stuff. So Morats, maybe less thinky, but very smashy. So if you want that, you've got that within Combined. And then Onyx Contact Force is an entirely different kettle of aliens in their own right, so worth looking into. So we have it. All in all, Combined is the filthy alien race that everyone loves to hate, but they are very fun to play and are a very rewarding faction if you choose to jump into them. Huge amounts of variety, some of the best units in the game, some very unique stuff that you'll only find in Combined Army, which makes them incredibly different to anything else in the human sphere. They're frequently on the top tier of tournament rankings for a reason. They play very well when you can optimize your list and you can use these tools together. So definitely worth looking into if you want to be competitive, if you want to push your gaming to another level, and also have fun. They've got some very good stuff in there. I'm currently playing Morats and I'm enjoying that a lot just because of the playstyle that they bring. So that's why I think you should play Combined Army. Jump into the comments if you play Combined, if you think I've managed to nail most of the reasons as to why you should. If you've got additional reasons as to why someone should play Combined, please jump in the comments and let me know. If you hate Combined Army and you want to lay into them, the comments is a good place for that too. Thank you so much for watching this video. I do appreciate it, and I'll be back soon with another one.